Hey, this is AJ. Welcome back to the Handyman process. In today's video, I'm going to continue my series on the simple path to handyman. In lesson number 1, we talked about the why. Why should you get into this business? So assuming you sat down, you wrote out the whys that you're kind of interested in joining the handyman business. The second part that I recommend is getting an understanding of becoming a small-time business operator. So what I'm going to recommend, first of all, is that you go out and you get this book. I'm not affiliated with this book. It's just the best book that I've read in terms of understanding the basics of running a small business and answering it kind of very simply, right? I got a simple mind and I like simple books. So this book is very simple. It explains kind of in detail what you need to know when you run your small business. So stay tuned. I'm going to kind of walk through some of the highlights of this book, why I recommend it, and then we'll get into it. Thanks. All right, so let's talk about the book, right? Again, it's Small Time Operator. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you've seen me tout this book. It's written by an author named Kamoroff. He also writes another book called 475 Tax Deductions, which I also highly recommend, but I'll make more of an overview of that book in a future episode. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight some of the main topics of this book and what I recommend that you kind of dig in. And as I talk about these things, you may go, oh yeah, I need to brush up on that. So it'll be a little bit of a refresher. If you haven't done research in this or you want to brush up on it, I'll talk about some of the topics and why I think it's important. So he starts off with the basics. What is business? How is business evolved? What's going on? And then he gets into the very quickly the basics and the simple parts of running a business. The first is financing. Like, how much money do you need to get a business up and running? The great news about being a handyman is you don't need a lot of upfront money. So if somebody's telling you need $20,000, $10,000, $5,000, you don't need a lot of money. You can go out tomorrow and start working with whatever you have. Even if you don't have a car, if you have legs and you can walk somewhere, you can start making money as a handyman. So that's the good news about being a handyman. You can kind of gloss over quickly the finance piece of it, at least for now. That may come back into play if you start to expand and build up a little bit. But moving on, he'll get into the legal structures. So what are the legal structures? The most common ones in our business are sole proprietor, single member LLC, partnerships, and then there's various forms of corporations. If you're just getting started off, you're probably going to be a sole proprietor or a sole proprietor taxed as an LLC, but he'll go over in this book a pretty good explanation of it. Then he'll go into other things like choosing business names, licenses, sales tax, other types of regulations. Some of them will apply to you and some of them won't. I recommend kind of going through, and somewhere in here I got things highlighted and marked up. Go through it at least once, kind of mark up, okay, this is applicable to you, and then go through it a couple more times. And I always pull it out, depending on the time of the year when tax time is coming around, or I got notices in the mail right now about paying my my franchise tax. I'm like, oh, what is that again? I just kind of refer back to this. So the chapter 1 of the book will kind of get you started on that. Chapter 2, the guy who wrote the book, Kamoroff, is an accountant by trade. So he's got a whole section on keeping records. A lot of my videos, I emphasize the record keeping. You'd be amazed at how many people do not keep records. You talk to any accountant, you go into their office and you see what your competition is like in terms of organization and keeping records. And to me, it's atrocious. I mean, sometimes there's no records, or, just a big box full of receipts with no rhyme or reason to it, which can be pretty bad. But in here, he'll go into the basics of bookkeeping, setting up a banking account. I guess we'll get into that later on about setting up banking accounts. Some of it's difficult, some of it's easy. Depends on who you choose and what you go with. But you definitely want to have your money separated. You don't want to do what they call commingling of your funds, your personal money with your business money. You kind of want to keep it separated. Primarily, so you understand kind of how the business is doing, but more importantly, if you ever get audited, if you don't separate those, then any liability protections you may have, even if you're an LLC, if you've commingled your funds, personal and business together, the legal system is more than likely going to say, well, if you commingle your funds, you don't care. I don't care about your LLC. So you can do a little bit of research on that, but that's the big one in terms of that. He'll go through the whole gamut of things, recording expenditures, cash flow, the whole 9 yards. The next chapter, getting to chapter 3, we'll talk a little bit about growing, bringing on employees, partnerships, and whatnot. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I only had one employee, and it was my son, my 18-year-old son. Technically, I had 2 employees because I have a 13-year-old son that does a little bit of work, but not a whole lot. But this book kind of laid out, how do I do that? How do you pay your children? There's a whole section on that. So I opened that up and just followed it to the T. That, coupled along with a few other blogs that I had read, I came up with my hiring my children strategy and paying my children strategy. I don't really plan to grow and turn into an S Corp or anything else, at least not at this point in time. But if you're going full time into this and you're planning to make some money, then at some point you probably want to switch. Assuming you came in as an LLC, you're going to want to switch away from a sole proprietor taxed as an LLC over to an LLC taxed as a S corporation, which are some benefits too, which there's a lot of videos out there on the benefits of that. But generally speaking, unless you're bringing home $50,000 to $100,000, it's probably not worth the legal fees of doing that at this point in time. Yeah, he'll walk through the rest of the stuff in there. You know, one of the big things I don't do with my business, but I do in other means, is setting up retirement accounts. If you're young, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s and you're in this business and you're watching this video, setting up your accounts, your retirement accounts and other tax sheltering accounts is pivotal, especially if you want to be in this business for a while. You don't want to be the 50, 60-year-old guy who never saved money for retirement, because that'll put you in a bad spot. So read the section on retirement deductions, setting up retirement plans, and go from there. Chapter 5, he gets into a home-based business, which most handymen are home-based business, or in my case, garage-based business, but you know, I'm sitting in my home office right now. So how do you do that? What are the benefits of doing that? What are some of the peculiarities of the tax law associated with a home-based business? This is where I got the information for how do I write off my home office? What does it qualify? What does it meet? Great, simple explanations in here with a lot of little good nuggets and details associated with it. And the rest of them he gets into, that doesn't really apply. He'll get a little bit into the use of credit and debit cards, working as in a married partnership. Maybe your wife or your husband or your partner is involved in a business somehow. We'll get a little bit further into that. He'll talk a little bit about franchising. I don't think you need to get into franchising in this business. And for what I've seen from franchising, I'll let you make your own decisions on that. But other than that, yeah, there's a few other things. Some of it apply to me, some of them don't. He gets into some filing stuff and writing up contracts and some other stuff. But it's pretty cheap. It's a pretty cheap book. I think you can go on eBay and probably buy this book for half price. Or you could probably even go to the library and just check it out. But I recommend this as my lesson 2, is pick up this book, read through it, understand it, see how it applies to your business, and then put that check in the box, put that book on the shelf, and reference it whenever you need it. So hopefully this video is helpful to you. Again, this is lesson 2 in my bigger series of The Simple Path to Handyman. As I move further along, I'll be diving a little further into the maturing of your business and diving a little bit more specific into some of the topics that I just mentioned out of this book. And I'll use this book kind of as a guideline to make my videos as we move forward. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. If you like this kind of content, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Drop a comment down below if you got any thoughts or ideas. Hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.